From navigating mom guilt to trying to figure out how to be vulnerable, but not so vulnerable that you scare people off, Toni Greco is here to help us build mental stamina while simultaneously letting ourselves off the hook from that elusive search for perfection. In the video you're about to see, Toni shares 5 super helpful tools for building mental strength and even includes a few book recommendations for anyone wanting to take the conversation to the next level. Without further ado, here's Toni Greco.
My name is Toni Greco, and I'm a licensed professional counselor and a fellow MOPS mama. This is my 3rd year of MOPS, and already I am incredibly thankful for the wisdom, support, and community that this has brought to my life. Whether you are a first-time mama or a seasoned vet, there is value in coming alongside those who share like-minded goals. A focus for this year at MOPS is be strong. I wonder what that phrase evokes in you. I could talk about this subject for hours, but since we don't have endless time, let me share with you my perspective about being strong. To me, strength can look like a lot of different things. It can look like navigating life and relationships well, being able to increase your weight limit at the gym, or allowing yourself to acknowledge an area of your life that you're struggling with. See, strength is more than being tough. It's about finding the courage to reach out and get support in times of need. In my experience, the most valuable aspect of strength comes from our ability to be vulnerable. To be vulnerable about who we are and allow that to be exposed to the people we trust. Vulnerability has been a hot topic over the last few years, and for good reason. It is the hallmark to intimacy in relationships, and more importantly, intimacy with your true self. Now that sounds like a really big concept, so I want to break this down so that we can see how strength is truly its foundation. As a therapist, I hold firmly to the mindset that our beliefs fuel our behavior and attitude. Another way to say this is, what we think directs our steps. I have seen this many times in my practice and personal life. When much of our focus is on the negative, the world around us generally begins to reflect that. Our attitude about work, feeling extra stressed with our kids, communication breakdowns in our marriages, and the list goes on. But if we point our thoughts to a more balanced perspective, life begins to become more manageable, and the concept of hope begins to grow. Did you catch that there? I said balanced, because life is not always fun and enjoyable. But having balance in our perspective allows us to manage the expectations that we have of others and the expectations that we place on ourselves. Here's an example of a negative thought. I shouldn't feel anxious about my son starting preschool. Other moms don't have a hard time with this. Here's how we can shift this to a more balanced thought. It's okay for me to be anxious. This is the first time we're experiencing this change. Asking other moms for perspective and tips could help me normalize my anxiety and help me feel more secure with this decision. This goes beyond just healthy self-care, which is valuable in and of itself. This speaks to the thoughts that keep you stuck with negative self-esteem, mom guilt, and the pressure to be perfect. This time of motherhood is full of highs and lows. It is really challenging to raise a human being. And sometimes we feel like super moms, and sometimes we feel like complete failures. But ask yourself, what does it mean to be a good mom? A good role model for our kids? Whose definition of motherhood are you comparing yourself to? It is so easy to get lost in the minute details of this parenting gig, when all of the while our kids are truly desiring us to just be present with them and set the example for how to handle life. It's kind of ironic if you think about it. We're spending more time worried about if we're doing a good job than simply being present with our kids, which is really all they want. If we focus on all the things we didn't get done today, and the way we didn't show up for our kids, then our ability to show them grace is compromised. When our ability to be present is weakened, we'll begin to see that our joy is stolen and our self-worth declines. This is where our old friend self-judgment comes to pull us away from what is true about us. The common saying is comparison is the thief of joy. And while I 100% agree that that is true, I believe self-judgment is comparison's co-pilot. Judging yourself for having negative thoughts, for struggling with anxiety or depression, for not being the mom you thought you were, keeps you stuck. It's valuable to acknowledge what we're thinking about, but it does not need to define us. And this is a huge difference. If our thought is simply a thought, then we have options to move in a direction of healing. If a thought has the power to define us, then we have walked ourselves right into quicksand. An example could be, I know I shouldn't be anxious, but there are so many things I'm worried about. Or I know it's dumb, but I don't feel like I'm adding any value to my life and my family, and so on. Do you hear the judgment in any of these? Here's how you can acknowledge a thought without attaching judgment to it. I seem to be feeling really anxious about these upcoming changes in my life. Maybe talking to my husband can relieve some of the burden and help me refocus on what I can control right now. We acknowledge the feeling of anxiety and developed a strategy on how to manage it rather than deciding that we're just an anxious person and there isn't anything that we can do about it. Maybe you're dealing with anxiety or depression and feel like you can't keep your head above water. Maybe you're struggling with trying to juggle it all and realizing giving 20% to everything isn't bringing you fulfillment in your life. Maybe you only have one kid and struggle with managing time and feel like you're failing as a mom while other moms around you seem to be doing just fine with more on their plate. Whatever the situation is, whatever the comparison is, whatever the negative self-talk is about, don't be afraid to ask for help. We need perspective outside of ourselves to get a grasp on life and not be tossed around by it. Look at the women next to you. There is absolutely someone who has been, currently is, or will be in a situation like yours and can offer support and guidance and companionship. This is valuable. When we choose to open ourselves to vulnerability, we welcome the opportunity to not be alone and spiral in shame. This choice of vulnerability takes great strength and courage. I believe it's always better to have a plan for battling the difficulties in our life. We have to know how to use our weapons before we enter into the fight. To practice mental toughness, we must first learn what the tools are that we have and how they can serve us. Having a plan doesn't mean that we're planning and expecting the worst to happen. It's more about knowing ourselves and the areas that tend to be footholds of struggle for us, and learning what we need to help equip us for success. Ask yourself this: who is a good resource for you in times of great struggle? What practical things do you need to reset and realign your mind to start fresh? What are the red flags that things are going down a very difficult path? I encourage you to write these out so they're clear for you to develop. This is unique to everyone and can be very simple. It is always best to practice using your tools when you are not in crisis, so you're familiar with them before crisis hits. The idea is this: coming to a sword fight without ever wielding your sword doesn't set you up for victory. Sometimes our greatest tool will be telling someone that we need help. Take down these 5 reminders for maintaining mental strength. Number 1, drop the shoulds, must, and have tos. These leave you with no option but failure if you don't measure up. Number 2, the airplane. Secure your mask first before assisting your child. Find what you need to be healthy so that you can be there for yourself and for your family. Number 3, for every negative thought, replace it with a balanced one. Number 4, have grace on yourself. And number 5, let go of perfection. My challenge to you is to practice believing that your worth and value began long before you were a mama. Yes, this takes practice. Tapping into your value and worth as a person and a woman can be a life-changing experience. If we acknowledge our value, then we're able to face adversity in our marriages, with our kids, and in society with more strength and peace of mind. It takes vulnerability to start connecting to your value and your worth. Here is a mark of mental strength: to live as if our worth isn't on the line every moment. I hope that you can begin to find self-acceptance at whatever stage of life you're in. Here are some really great books that I have found to speak to many areas of mental toughness and how to find your value and worth living in the day-to-day. Daring Greatly by Brené Brown, Anxious for Nothing by Max Lucado, and The Gift of Being Yourself by David Benner. I hope that you can begin to understand what strength looks like for you. As you connect more to your value and worth, see how that changes your willingness to reach out and ask for help. We can choose to compare our ever-changing feelings, thoughts, and perspective to something that is unchanging: the truth. It is simplistic but powerful, and here is the truth. You are worthy, you are enough, you are lovable, and no one can take value from you, not in what they say or what they do. And it's okay to need people. Be honest with yourself. Allow vulnerability to guide you and anchor yourself to these truths. And that is what true strength looks like.